My name is Tom Taylor, and I'm one of the co-chairs of our First Things First campaign. Today, we will be preparing ourselves for next week when we gather in worship to complete our individual First Things First estimate of giving cards and bring them forward together in an act of worship. Please find the Taking the Next Step stair-step chart and pen or pencil to write with. Together, we are going to fill in this chart with how many households in our church are on each step in their annual giving to the ministries of our church. Once filled in, this chart reflects where we are as a church body in our giving. This chart is not an attempt to get you to live up to someone else's level of giving, as there are no two families in our church who have been blessed in the exact same way. So if you have before you the First Things First, Taking the Next Step chart, let's look at it, and together we're going to fill this in with the actual number of households on each step. So if you look at the bottom left, at left-hand corner, you're going to see that first level of giving is $0 to $499 annually. So last year, 2017, we had 636 households in our church that gave at that level. The next step, which is from 500 to just under 1,000, we had 189 households that gave at that level. The next step is 1,000 to just under 2,000. We had 265 households last year that gave at that level. And please, as I'm walking through this, fill these numbers in so that you have a record yourself of where the church's membership is in giving. The next step up is 2,000 to just under 3,000, and we had 125 households at that level. In the 3,000 to just under 5,000 level, we had 144 households. In the next step, 5,000 to just under $7,500, we had 116 households. And again, this is on an annual basis, annual giving in 2017. The next step, from $7,500 to just under $10,000, we had 28 households at that level. From $10,000 to just under $15,000, we had 53 households. From $15,000 to just under $20,000, we had 24 households. From $20,000 to just under $30,000, we had 21 households. From $30,000 to just under $50,000, we had 11 households. From $50,000 to just under $100,000, we had 4 households, and above $100,000, we also had 4 households. Now, please take the First Things First step chart and flip it over to the back. And what you're going to see on the back is a percentage giving paper calculator. And what this will do is allow each of us, as we prayerfully consider what our estimated giving is going to be for 2018, to look at income levels and percentages and what level of giving that would be on a monthly basis. And so if you look on the left-hand side of the chart, what you'll see is annual income beginning at $20,000 and going up to $500,000. And if you look across the top, you'll see different percentage giving levels from 1% up to the 10% level, and then as examples, 12% and 15%. Now, the numbers that are shown in the chart are what the monthly giving levels would be for households that fall into these categories. So for example, a household earning $50,000 a year, if that household gives 5% of their household income, that would be $208 a month, and that's shown in the chart. If that household were to step up to 6%, it would be $250. And if they were to give 10%, $417 per month. And you can look down the left-hand side and look at what you think your household income may be and calculate for yourself what percentage giving would be. One of the most critical steps in growth on the giving path is to become a percentage giver. A percentage giver is someone that determines in advance what percent of their income they will commit to God's work through their church. The purpose of this illustration is to help persons more clearly ask this question in prayer. God, what percentage of my income do you want me to give based on your goodness in my life? This is not an attempt to twist arms or use guilt to coerce you into a decision. This is an act of worship and not fundraising. And as an act of worship, we're being asked to have a conversation with God and our families about taking the next step of generosity at Memorial Drive United Methodist Church. Please take this chart home with you and keep it in a place that reminds you to be in daily conversation with God and your family members about your response to God's blessings in your life. As I mentioned earlier, our purpose today is to prepare ourselves for next Sunday when we will gather in worship and we will have a chance to respond to God's leading in our lives by completing our estimate of giving cards together in worship and bringing them forward as an act of individual and corporate worship. There is no desire, again, to twist arms or use guilt to coerce you into a decision. This is an act of worship, not an act of fundraising. Next Sunday, if you're still not clear on what percentage of your income, and again, it's a percentage, not an actual amount, would be reflective of God's goodness in your life, you may indicate on your card that you need more time in prayer, but you will still participate in presenting your card in worship. The church will then follow up with you about your response. Our objective in First Things First is for each household to determine what percentage of their income reflects God's goodness in their lives, and to respond by putting that amount on their estimate of giving card and returning it next Sunday in worship. If you miss next Sunday, a card will be mailed to you, and you can complete that card and send it back to the church. If you prefer to do it electronically, there will be a link that will allow you to do so. Thank you so much for your participation in this worshipful experience.